The mother of all bombs.
It is the largest bomb in the Air Force arsenal.
We targeted a system of tunnels and caves that ISIS fighters used.
Years of pacificity are over. Donald Trump is saying, look, if you are our enemy, we are going to find you and we are going to kill you.
We have a threat. We've promised to deal with it, and we're dealing with it right now.
It's time to call out WikiLeaks for what it really is. Assange is a narcissist who has created nothing of value. He's a fraud, a coward hiding behind a screen.
100% false. It's fabrication.
Assad is basically asking the world to believe him rather than our lying eyes that have all seen these videos.
What happened to my dad should have never happened to any human being.
This lawsuit, hopefully, will create a not just national discussion, but international.
I can't hear you through the glass, but we'll see. We'll read your lips.
We'll wave to you.
Right. I think it's also important. You just pointed out, too, you had that press conference with that lawyer for the United Airlines passenger that's dragged out the plane. Longer than General Mattis's press conference earlier in the week, explaining why we use 59 Tomahawk missiles. But the guy was really enjoying his moment in the sun. A little bit too much.
The attorney?
All right. He
dreaming of his payday.
Yeah, obviously he's going to get a big one.
He's going to get paid a lot. His daughter's so adorable. She's cute. All right. Well, we start with this. A Fox News alert. 3 dozen ISIS militants dead. They were killed when the U.S. unleashed the mother of all bombs, 22,000 pounds of dynamite.
It is a show of force heard around the world this morning. Our own Leland Vittert live from the White House with the latest on that. Leland, good morning.
Brian Ainsley and Pete, good morning to you. The symbolism of this is certainly not lost on the White House here. This bomb is uniquely suited to clear out the cave complex that ISIS fighters had taken over there in eastern Afghanistan. About 22,000 pounds. In the words of one U.S. official, they kicked it out the back of a plane, a C-130 there just along the border. This is video of when this bomb was originally tested, and you can see the blast radius is about a mile. That cloud is going to go about 10,000 feet in the air. And equally important to the fireball here is how it sucks all of the oxygen out of the area where it explodes. So it penetrates down in terms of its killing ability into a cave complex like the one there in Afghanistan that ISIS had taken over. The Wall Street Journal reports that that cave complex was originally used as a gem mine and now is being used by ISIS as a staging area and a military compound. Rather, I should say, was used as a military staging compound there for ISIS. The president alluded to the idea that he wasn't necessarily personally involved in the decision to drop the bomb, but certainly was pleased with the result.
We have the greatest military in the world, and they've done a job as usual. So we have given them total authorization, and that's what they're doing. And frankly, that's why they've been so successful lately. If you look at what's happened over the last 8 weeks and compare that really to what's happened over the last 8 years, you'll see there's a tremendous difference.
And there were a lot of questions about what message this might send to North Korea. The president said he didn't know what message it sent, but certainly the White House here, as they worry about North Korea, is looking towards this weekend when there is a rumored possible North Korean nuclear test planned. Guys, back to you.
All right, thanks a lot, Leland. So it's pretty astounding, number one, that we're in the Tora Bora region, I guess these two provinces, and there's still a network of caves out there. Didn't we handle this in 2001? Number two, that ISIS feels as though they can infiltrate back into that area. For those who say, why are we still in Afghanistan? We'd be back in there had we left earlier. And finally, when you look at what's happening in that area, only 36 dead. I think a substantial thing has taken place in a message sent. But I'm astounded to see that Russia and Iran are now having a meeting about the future of Afghanistan when we're the ones who've been there for 15 years. They're actually having a session about the future, meeting with Taliban officials about a new Afghan government.
What do you think about it?
Well, because we've been headed for the... Yeah, I served there in 2011, 2012. We've been headed for the exits in Afghanistan under Barack Obama for a long time, sending signals that we're not as interested in finding a solution there. And it is a difficult solution. Look at Nangarhar province where this happened. Over 1,000 ISIS fighters housed there right now. They have free reign to attack. We lost a Green Beret array there a couple of days ago. So the Pentagon is claiming this wasn't a direct response to that, but in some ways I really think it was. And if you watch other networks...
The Wall Street Journal has a quote from an unnamed source, and the Pentagon says it was.
Of course, you think President Trump isn't saying they take one of ours, we're going to give it back to them even more. But the other networks are making this about who authorized it, who authorized it. Doesn't matter.
I think it's cool that he says the generals authorized this, the military. They're the boots on the ground. They're the ones that can make the decisions. I look to them. They're the experts. I'm not.
Precisely correct. And the military loves that too. All you want is decision-making pushed down to the closest level to unleash and empower commanders who really know what it takes to destroy the enemy. You've got this kind of ordinance. The general on the ground says, I want to use it because I've got an area that I can't touch with guys unless I'm going to lose Americans. Yeah. So you save American lives by dropping a bomb like this in that area.
The president was on the campaign trail. He said, I'm going to bomb the blank out of ISIS. He's doing that, killing these, how many was it, 36 ISIS members, ISIS fighters?
And that's reported by the Afghan government. It could be a lot more than that, too.
All right. Well, it's a start, at least. Yep. And Sebastian Gorka, who is a terrorist expert, he also works for Donald Trump. He was agreeing with him. He said this is totally different. Remember the president in that clip we just showed? The president said the last 8 weeks have been totally different than the last 8 years. And Gorka agrees. Listen to this.
If you read the memoirs of Secretary Gates, of Secretary Panetta, it's stunning. Obama's own principals, their own secretaries, talk about NSC meetings that last for 3 to 4 hours with nobody taking a decision. That was the last 8 years. That was the reality of the red lines. Along comes President Trump. That's gone. We have a threat. We've promised to deal with it, and we're dealing with it right now.
And Secretary of Defense Hagel, same thing. So he just drive him nuts. Hagel was a Vietnam veteran, would sit there whether he thought he was great or terrible as Secretary of Defense and say, can we make a decision? He'd see a bunch of these 30-somethings sitting there talking hypothetically about war, and they leave and go with absolutely no decision made. It was driving him crazy.
That's exactly right. It's the idea of an academic-based ivory tower foreign policy where they want to please everybody and make political calculations versus a belief in America that America needs to lead and that we need to viciously destroy and kill our enemies who want to viciously destroy us. So use what you have at your disposal, and in this case, we did.
So what's the Democrats' reaction to all this? Elizabeth Warren weighs in. And please, put on your thinking cap.
As is the case with every part of Trump's foreign policy, we're all trying to understand, what is the strategy? If we can't figure out what it means, it's sort of hard to make that a message. One of the things we want to know is what was the impact on civilians. I think it's powerfully important. You know, you go back to General McChrystal talking about the importance of knowing who gets killed in these attacks, because that's the real question about our future safety. Who's going to be out there fighting us in the future?
Those are some excellent questions. Let me answer them for you. I'll tell you, he doesn't want to release his strategy. He's told us he's not going to tell us what his plans are for the evil dictators in other countries. He also, I can tell you this, though, I think his strategy would be to kill people who want to kill us. And we need to prevent them from coming over here, and we need to keep America safe. And that's why people went to the polls to vote for him.
That's right. Another answer is 0 civilian casualties is what's been reported so far. But it's a reflexive desire to blame America or find blame or fault in our actions. I also love how the left loves, if they quote the name of a general, then they must be smart. So it's like, I'm going to throw General McChrystal in there. Listen, General McChrystal is a counterinsurgency expert, one of the best generals we have. But if you understand counterinsurgency, which is what we're not conducting right now in Afghanistan, then the idea of civilian casualties is changed and the impact of those civilian casualties. But even the failing New York Times falls in line predictably, saying this attack risks backlash. You know, of course, the subtext is we kill a bunch of ISIS fighters with an ordinance that we have, but what's the backlash going to be against us?
We've got 8,400 people fighting a two-front war between the Taliban and ISIS. Sometimes ISIS fights the Taliban, and all the time they're looking to fight us.
Yes.
Meanwhile, one of the people that we hit with 59 Tomahawks is Syria, Bashir Assad. So he was saying that he didn't use chemical weapons, or if they did use chemical weapons, it was the insurgents that used it. But now listen to his latest explanation to what took place leading up to the U.S. response.
The United States is hand in glove with the terrorists. They fabricated the whole story. We don't know whether those dead children, were they killed in Khan Shaykhun, were they dead at all?
Were those children dead at all?
He's saying they could have been child actors. Literally is what he said in the interview.
We saw the video. We interviewed someone on our show right after that said he had lived through one of these attacks, a sarin gas attack, and he said he watched all of his family members die.
This is what dictators do. They lie and deceive because they've got no other option. And, you know, the general folks that have reacted to the Moab in Afghanistan have said this is a tactical issue in Afghanistan. Of course it is. But it also sends a clear message, no doubt, around the world, to North Korea, to Syria, Bashar al-Assad. Even the Iranians, we're willing to use the weapons we have to prevent terrible things from happening in this world. Take note. And I think they are taking note.
And I think some of those kids were 1 year old, 1.5. I don't think they're child actors. They don't know how to act.
That there should have been a laugh track in that comment if it wasn't so serious. Right. And, you know, listen, General Mattis got ahead of the whole thing, explained exactly what went into it. 2 days later, the Russians had their explanation, and now 3 days later, that yesterday was laughable.
It's an open and shut case, which is why we have real leverage over Russia as it pertains to Syria, which is what I think. This is where the Trump administration is thinking very strategically about the new moments they have. 8 years of failure under Obama, 8 weeks of assertion. You got a moment where you can, with China, with Syria, to create new partnerships.
And North Korea, which China warned them over the weekend, no nuclear devices, going to be severe consequences, no intercontinental missile launches. So we'll see if China's actually in our corner. Meanwhile, at 11 minutes after the hour, let's see whose corner Jackie's on.
Hi, good morning, guys.
Good morning.
And good morning to everyone waking up at home right now. A massive fire shutting down the Las Vegas Strip overnight. Huge flames shooting out of the world-famous Bellagio Hotel and Casino. Look at that. It's quite a sight. Dozens of firefighters working to put out the inferno, taking over the roof of one of the biggest hotels in the world. But it wasn't enough to stop the Bellagio's famous water show from happening just feet below. Authorities investigating what sparked the fire. The Strip is now back open this morning. And churches beefing up security this Easter weekend as the nationwide manhunt for a suspect armed with high-powered weapons intensifies, that is. Police in Wisconsin uncovering a brand new sick letter targeting Sunday masses they believe might be from this man, Joseph Jakubowski. The self-proclaimed revolutionary sent a violent 161-page manifesto to President Trump. The threats forcing Wisconsin Governor Scott Walker to cancel the annual Easter egg hunt at the governor's mansion. And the wife of the teacher accused of kidnapping his student, revealing he left her a note. Jill Cummins saying she never had a reason to doubt her husband, Tad, who police say is in Tennessee. They abducted 15-year-old Elizabeth Thomas, the two now on the run for a month now.
I had no reason not to believe him. 31 years of marriage, you know, with no problems. Why would you not believe him? No matter.
Cummins uses blood pressure medication. Authorities now telling pharmacies to be on alert. He will need a new prescription pretty soon. And those are your headlines. Back to you guys.
All right.
Wow. That's unbelievable.
Crazy story.
Yeah. All right. Thank you, Jackie. 7 hours of outdoor activity, freshly washed sheets, and absolutely no need to learn English. That's the easy life of an illegal immigrant inside American jails. But now the Trump administration says the party is over.
All right. And we're following a Fox News alert now. You have 36 ISIS militants, maybe more, taken out by the mother of all bombs. Former Navy SEAL Carl Higbie is here to tell us the real message behind the attack, perhaps. And you cannot handle complex at the Afghan-Pakistan border.
That bomb also sending a very strong message to our enemies around the world.
Here to react, former Navy SEAL Carl Higbie on the couch. Carl, good morning. Thank you.
Hey, thanks for having me.
So give us your overall reaction.
Oh, great. I mean, thumbs up. This is Donald Trump reasserting us on the world stage as the superpower that we are. I'm sick and tired of Obama's limp-wristed foreign policies, pontificating endlessly about what to do. Donald Trump said, there's a problem, let's go deal with it. Campaign promise was, I'm going to bomb the expletive out of ISIS. Fulfilled.
This was your job when you were Navy SEAL. Tell us more about that, your experience.
So part of what I did is on the ground was calling these airstrikes, you know, lays targets, calling coordinates, things like that for close air support, where we drop bombs from any air-to-ground munitions. And this is something that is uniquely American in the sense of our ability to deliver. A lot of countries have air support and things like that, but our ability to put munitions from the air to the ground is unparalleled globally.
And so precise, too,
Oh,
right?
yeah. I mean, we can put a bomb in a window anywhere in the world with a push of a button, and it's amazing.
But right now, with 8,400 troops there, with ISIS establishing themselves and the Taliban reinvigorated, and an Afghan government struggling to stand up, where do we go forward from here? Besides this tunnel complex, we're going to need to look at the bigger picture.
Oh, yeah, and this is not something that's going to be solved with one thing. But the thing is, there are much better munitions we could have used to solve this tunnel problem. We have penetrating munitions that could go down and blow things up. This MOAB was sent for a reason. It was sent to send a message to the world. Said, we are going to push the envelope. We're going to do what it takes, and we're going to use every ounce of military might that we have to kill ISIS.
Are you comfortable with the Secretary of Defense having so much power, the chief executive giving him that type of initiative?
Oh, yeah, that's what's been lacking under Obama's 8 years is the autonomy to fight a war as we see fit. I mean, look, you've had people, these bureaucrats running war scenarios that have never experienced war, that don't understand what they're doing. And Trump said, hey, look, Mattis, you are the expert here. You do what you got to do, and I got your back.
Well, and you were at JTAC in Afghanistan. You said you dropped upwards of 2,000-pound bombs. These are 10 times that. So you understand that force, but you got to have the ability to make a decision as a commander in theater, and that's what President Trump is giving to the.
Well, that's what it was under when I was there in 2007 under Bush. We were able to drop bombs whenever we saw fit, whenever we said that our lives were in danger and we needed to. When we were there under Obama, there was an approval process where if you were in a gunfight, you had to call up who had to call up who had to call up, and then it had to come back down the same way. So you couldn't get the munitions on the ground by the time the firefight was over, or guys were dying in the middle of it.
Is that why ISIS grew?
I mean, you can't say that's exactly why ISIS grew, but definitely the rules of engagement, the lack of fortitude from President Obama was a huge contributing factor.
Carl Higbee, thanks so much. I appreciate it.
Thanks for your service, too.
All right, 10 minutes before the bottom of the hour.
Right, and the member of a drug cartel suspected of shooting and killing border agent Brian Terry with a gun supplied by the U.S. government. He's finally been caught, and a friend of that fallen agent joins us next.
And Lois Lerner says she's getting death threats. Maybe she should have thought about that before targeting conservatives and ruining people's lives. Think about that as we bring the music up and go to break. Wow.
You can't always get what you want.
Thank you, Brian. The cartel member suspected of murdering a Border Patrol agent and exposing Operation Fast and Furious in the process is finally under arrest.
Very good news. Yeah, Brian Terry was shot on the U.S.-Mexican border 6 years ago, but the people who were close to him, they feel mixed about the news of the arrest. Joining us with her reaction is friend of Brian Terry, Lana Domino. Lana, thank you very much for joining us this morning.
Thank you for having me.
Thankfully, the trigger man in that horrific attack has been captured. How does that make you feel this morning?
Well, happy that we're one step closer towards, getting justice for Brian, but that's just one piece of the puzzle. There's still one more suspect at large, and the administration is, still no one's been held accountable from the ATF, the DOJ, and Obama is no longer in office to exercise his executive privilege. Jason Chaffetz, with the Oversight Committee, has been trying to get Operation Fast and Furious documents so he could do his job and get some justice for the Terry family and for Brian Terry. So President Trump has made promises that he will get that justice for Brian and for Brian's family. It's a promise that I hope that he keeps, and we have a new Attorney General, so Eric Holder can no longer block those documents from being released.
I know that Brian's brother, his statement saying that he is so much more comfortable now that President Trump is in office. Do you feel the same way, and if so, why?
I think because coming in, he's not a politician. So I think, as he said in his campaign, he doesn't owe anybody any favors. Maybe there'll be some more transparency. Maybe there won't be a cover-up. He has nothing to hide. He's a new president. There's no reason for those documents not to be released anymore. The truth needs to be revealed, not only for the Terry family. The American people are owed an explanation of a botched gun-running program that should have never existed. And not only do we have Brian Terry, who died from it, we have Jaime Zapata. They sacrificed and gave their lives protecting our borders for our freedoms. And what did our government give them? A cover-up? Lies? That's not honoring them.
Lana, how did you know Brian, and what was he like?
I was friends with Brian. I moved out to Arizona in 2005, and Brian moved out later, and we became friends. Brian was just like a very happy, bubbly person, give you the shirt off your back, there for you when you're down to give you a pep talk. A really good person. I mean, he dedicated his life to serving. He was a police officer, a Border Patrol agent, a Marine. He dedicated his life He doesn't deserve what he got from the Obama administration. He doesn't deserve that. He deserves to have his name honored. And to me, covering up lies on a botched gun running program with the ATF, Bill Newell, they stepped down and they moved people. Bill Newell still works for the ATF.
Yeah,
you know, Ken Melson, he stepped down. Who went to jail? No one. As far as the government and the departments, Eric Holder's still allowed to practice law as a lawyer. Was just hired by California legislator. How could you hire such a man who is not an honest man?
Sure. Yeah, no, Lana Domino, thank you for bringing the memory of Brian Terry alive again. And people forget, it was December of 2010, just 7-8 years ago. Justice shouldn't have a timeline, and you're still fighting for it. Thank you very much for joining us this morning. We
Thank you, Lana, and give his family our best. God bless you all. Thank you.
Thank you.
Coming up, do you think taxpayer money should go to fund Planned Parenthood? This morning, a major update on that debate.
Plus, more on our top story this morning. 36 ISIS terrorists are dead, possibly more. So why are liberals so outraged over that? We've assembled a pretty awesome military panel here. There you go. You're looking at it. To set the liberals straight. Up next.
We have incredible leaders in the military, and we have incredible military, and we are very proud of them. And this was another very, very successful mission.
Wow, a Fox News alert now, and you heard about this. 36 ISIS militants taken out by a bomb known as the mother of all bombs, and President Trump calling it a success. So what is the message to the rest of the world? Is there one? Here to discuss is former Army intelligence officer, Lieutenant Colonel Tony Sheffield, playing outside right, former advisor to the United Nations and NATO commanders in Afghanistan. Andrew Peek is here, retired infantryman and Marine Corps Reserve, and New York Assemblyman himself, Kieran Lower. Kieran, welcome back to all of you. First off, this bomb drops in a region right on the Afghan-Pakistan border a week after one of our special operators is killed. How does that play into this?
Yeah, I think it definitely sends a message that all options are on the table. Washington is no longer going to micromanage the war. You saw that President Trump gave authorization to use this if the situation presented itself a while ago. I think those are real positive developments and show that this president is very different than his predecessor.
Let's look at what Afghanistan is right now. You have ISIS fighting the Taliban sometimes together, and one thing they agree is we're bad and they want to take us out. Andrew, how does this ground now changed with that bomb dropped? With 36 dead.
Well, one of the most concerning developments in Afghanistan has been there's actually become a truce between ISIS and the Taliban since last summer. So what I would expect to see is increased cooperation even now going forward because of this bomb drop. You know, it's a propaganda victory. The United States is going after ISIS personally, and I think the Taliban prefers that it be the opposition faction #1 rather than ISIS.
Colonel, you've been saying this for a while. In fact, ISIS has been coming back in there since 2014, and as long as they're there, there's no reason for us to ever leave because they directly are a threat to America.
And more importantly, Brian, I think we have to understand there's ways we need to deal with them severely, sending the message about the fact we're going to go after them. And this bomb was used in such a way to send a message to the world and, more importantly, Pakistan. One of the issues has been, and will remain until we deal with it directly, is the safe havens in Pakistan. Every general I've talked to who's been in charge in Afghanistan bemoans the fact that we could not go into Pakistan and deal with the safe havens, which is how the Taliban and now ISIS is being able to kind of refuel, retool, and go back across the border. So this means, like we did with the bin Laden raid, Pakistan may well be back on the table.
And in Pakistan, remember, Colin Powell famously says, you know, you're going to be with us or against us. You know, told them to get on board, and we were able to use it as a staging area right after 9/11. And for a while, they were complying, but they're not now. So do you think this would hurt actual recruitment for ISIS more than anything else?
I think it does. You know, for a long time, if you were a potential jihadi, it looked like Allah was on your side and it was going to be a glorious cause. If you just got one of the 36, if you were just one of the 36 killed anonymously in a cave somewhere in Afghanistan, that's not so glorious. I think we've done something to stop ISIS's recruiting momentum with this.
Andrew, get this. Russia, on Friday, will host high-level talks on Afghanistan with Iran, Pakistan, and Chinese diplomats. They say we can go if we want to. What's going on here?
The Russians are playing a uniquely very negative game on Afghanistan. You know, they're actually supporting the Taliban, who fought their allies, the Northern Alliance, for
Islamic
years.
extremists,
This is how
fundamentalists.
much they hate America. This is how much they want to hurt American interests. They're supporting people who are diametrically opposed to Russian interests just to cause us some minor pain in Afghanistan.
You know what's interesting, and Colonel, tell me if I'm overstating this. You have the 59 Tomahawk missiles last weekend. You have this this mother of all bombs yesterday,
Right.
and then Saturday in North Korea, they see our attack fleet right outside off their coast.
Right.
And I'm wondering what they're thinking today. Am I wrong to think that they're following all this?
Oh, it's all related. Oh, absolutely. Look, we've had options again on the table regarding North Korea since I worked this in the 90s. The question becomes a matter of political will. Are we willing to do something? This is what's changed. The pattern that Mr. Trump has shown is that we're now willing to use military force as an extension of foreign policy. So if I were North Korea, if I were I would be taking this very seriously.
And I'll just add this as we switch finally to Syria, and that is the Chinese president called our president unsolicited on Tuesday and warned North Korea yesterday, you've been no antics on Saturday.
Right.
And that might, in many cases, is unprecedented. Some say don't be naive. So yesterday, Syrian President Assad came out and made a statement that it wasn't even a real attack, and he even implied that there were child actors that pretended to die a brutal death.
Totalitarian regimes are notorious liars.
Who's their audience? Andrew, who's their audience?
The world.
Yeah, no, it's the world. You know, it's also the Russian public. It's also they're trying to confuse the issue at the UN enough that countries like Bolivia, which voted with Russia against Nikki Haley's resolution condemning the chemical attack, feel justified in giving them some diplomatic cover. So it's just it's an information campaign, and the Russians consider information a weapon of war.
Well, and we have been losing this battle, Brian. I mean, we've been sitting back and allowing the Russians to run the table. This is another example of them putting out a message, spinning it a certain way. It doesn't really matter what the truth is. It's about what they can shape their perception to be. And this is something that clearly makes Russia an evil empire that we have to deal with, just like we did during the Cold War.
I just think they're a well-educated society. They're not going to be duped by this. And I think if they have Google, they'll realize how laughable that statement is. Guys, great to see you.
Right.
We'll see you a little bit later. And thanks so much. And we have a lot of fronts today. 6 different countries we have active military operations in. Meanwhile, Jackie, what else has been happening while we were talking?
Good morning, Brian. Well, it's now about 20 minutes to the top of the hour. President Trump making good on yet another campaign promise, opening the door to defund Planned Parenthood. The president signing a resolution allowing states to block federal funds from the abortion provider. The move reversing a previous resolution by President Obama, giving states the power to allocate federal health funding as they see fit. And former IRS official Lois Lerner furious about getting death threats, claiming she's now a victim over her IRS scandal. Lerner now demanding a judge seal her upcoming deposition, where she'll testify about targeting Tea Party groups. You may recall Lerner refused to testify before Congress back in 2013.
I have not done anything wrong. I've decided to follow my counsel's advice and not testify or answer any of the questions today.
Lerner resigned but was never charged. An insult to injury for United Airlines as it tries to recover from that passenger dragging scandal. We all remember that video there. Now this morning, word of yet another incident. Listen to this. A man on a United flight from Houston to Canada stung by a scorpion. Yep, a scorpion, when it fell from the overhead bin and landed right on his head. It has been a rough week for United. And those are your headlines.
Scorpion out of the baggage.
I know, right?
That's United?
Yeah.
Yes, it seems like it's made up, but it
Rough.
happened.
Rough. I had a scorpion fall from the
They've
ceiling
had a
of
bad
my
week.
hut in Iraq one time.
You did?
A little different than an airplane.
Really?
in the
Did it
United
bite
States.
you? Sting you?
Mm-mm. But it woke me up.
That's the least dangerous thing that happened to you in Iraq.
That's true.
Probably.
It's true. Interesting sleeping conditions. Anyway, coming up, here we go again. Brand new evidence. Our veterans aren't getting the